As you know, I recently left my corporate job and I've been in total recovery mode, all about self-care. One of my new routines is the nighttime shower before bed. There's just something about washing away the day and that reflection that's been super helpful for me. I've been using one of our partners, Osea's Mega Moisture Duo. This combo body oil and body lotion are so freaking incredible. It literally feels like I'm at a spa. I realized that the secret is seaweed and other skin level ingredients that are normally reserved for face products. And that's why I was so excited when Osea became one of our partners. And, we're so grateful for partners like this because one, they keep the show going, but they're also super good for all of our listeners and for our own well-being. So if you want to have that nighttime bliss like I am doing, you can get 10% off your first order site-wide with code DATEABLE at oseamalibu.com. You'll get free samples with every order and free shipping on orders over $60. So head to oseamalibu.com and use the code DATEABLE for 10% off. Let us know which products you end up going with, share them in social. Super excited to see what you end up choosing. I was so excited to get my shipment from Last Bottle Wines in the mail the other day, full of incredible red wines, all from Napa Valley. I love wine tasting, so having this to my door couldn't be happier. Also, couldn't be more excited that today's episode is brought to you by Last Bottle Wines. If you don't know already, they're a Napa-based online wine shop with a twist. They offer just one handpicked wine per day until it sells out, and they're always at incredible prices. We're talking 30 to 70% off retail. And the best part is that there's no subscriptions, no fees, and no minimum purchase. And I could not be more excited to bring this offer right now because they're having a marathon sale, which is coming up March 28th and 29th. Even better, we're offering Dateable listeners 10% off your first order with code DATEABLE. So if you are a wine lover like me, this is a great time to join. And did I mention that shipping is 100% free? So what are you waiting for? Mark your calendar for March 28th and 29th, or get on it earlier if you want. You can sign up at lastbottlewines.com and use code DATEABLE and find out why Last Bottle is the most fun way to discover and buy amazing wine.
The Dateable podcast features real stories from real people of how they make modern dating work or not. Each episode will not only offer you a new perspective on dating, but will also change the way you date. I'm your host, Yue, former dating coach turned dating sociologist. You'll also hear commentary from my producer, Julie Krafchick, and other surprise co-hosts. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating. We haven't really had a quirky dating story in a while, so in our quest for a fun, lighthearted dating story, Kiran, our guest, is here to satisfy our needs. Hi, Kiran. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming and telling us your story. I want to introduce you to our listeners first. Kiran's 35 years old. He's lived in the Bay Area for 7 years, currently in Oakland, originally from Connecticut, currently in a monogamous relationship. Not in a monogamous relationship with the person you're about to tell this story about, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us this very quirky dating story you encountered.
Okay. I guess just starting at the beginning, at the time, I'm not even sure exactly what year it was, a few years back. I was doing a lot of internet dating, OkCupid dating specifically at that time. But yeah, I had been on a number of OkCupid dates, and some good, some others not. And I figured I was just try dating people that were a little bit different if I saw something that's interesting about them.
Okay.
I came across this girl who she had a lot of just like athletic things in her profile. She did acro yoga, and it was something I still don't know anything about it. Maybe I see people doing it in Dolores Park, and I just figured like I'll reach out to her.
So her profile stood out.
Yeah, just
amongst the others.
Yeah, the photos, and I guess I hadn't seen that stuff before, like the acro yoga stuff as much before. Maybe it's more common now. I think it's more of a thing.
It's a thing now.
Yeah, it's a thing now.
Probably a couple of years ago, though. I can see that.
Yeah. Julie and I were just doing acro yoga before you came.
No, we weren't. Still not that much of a thing.
So her profile really stood out, and then you reached out to her?
Yeah, and I don't remember too much about how much we went back and forth. I don't think it was like too far drawn out, like a normal amount of back and forth and asking a couple questions, figuring it out, and just, hey, let's meet up, because how else do you know? She had agreed to meet up. I think maybe I had like a couple ideas, or I just went for something, and the plan was to meet up at Dear Mom. Dear Mom was this bar that the name actually kind of had a hilarious story where it came from one of the owners or one of their friends in college, like a funny drunken story where someone fell into a bush at the end of the night, and they had this quote where they're like, "Dear Mom, I love college." And it's kind of cool. They encourage people to bring in photos of their moms. And they put them up and decorated the bar with
cool.
photos of. So we met up, and the plan was just to grab a drink there. Nothing more yet. So we met up there, got there, ordered some drinks. I think she ordered a glass of wine, and the conversation was kind of slow going. And I don't know whether she was just a quiet person. Is she nervous? Is she not into me? It could be like a variety of things.
Are always
right?
just a little bit off. Right?
Yeah, but I thought the one odd thing was that she like really didn't drink much of her drink at all. Like it was there, and she wasn't like basically drinking any of it.
Did she bring in a picture of her mom?
No.
The
that
bar is permanently closed, by the way.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. We'll have to start our own.
Yeah. So yeah, we were just chatting at the bar. I don't remember really anything much about the conversation because there really was no conversation much.
So not memorable.
So I had finished my drink, and she had very little of hers. And then eventually she was like, "Hey, some of my friends are at Soma Street Food. Would you like to come over there to get something to eat?" And I was like, sure. And I thought it was
the food truck place for anyone that's not familiar. So did she say why she didn't drink her drink? Did she not drink, or? I
didn't ask about it because it seems like a kind of a weird thing, like get drunk, like, I don't know, like why you would order something that it's not like I ordered the drink for her and she just didn't like it or something. So, I mean, get whatever you want. Or there was never like any like, hey, can we not go to a bar? Can we do something else? But anyways, so she asked me, hey, would I like to go to Soma Street Food? Her friends are there. And I thought it was kind of like I wouldn't do that on a first date.
Right. It's a lot to meet people's friends
like a tag-along
on a first date. Yeah.
But I wasn't intimidated by it or nervous about that. I thought that was kind of cool. Maybe it was a good sign, that like she was willing to like introduce me to her friends, like even though we had just met each other. So I figured like I was hungry too, so like
why not?
So why not go over there? It was a short walk. So we get there, and there's a lot of options there. You can find vegan food, vegetarian food. If all you want to eat is meat, or tons of options there.
Basically everything.
Yeah, it's like any food truck under the sun, pretty much. It's like a whole park of food trucks.
Yeah.
We kind of split up to just do a round and figure out what we wanted to eat each, and did a loop, came back. She asked me like, hey, is there anything, did you find anything you want to eat? And I said, yeah, I think I had tacos, or if I remember correctly. And I said, what about you? And she's like, oh, there's nothing here for me. I didn't question it, but it was the first strange thing. I'm like, what do you, there's got to be like at least 12 options here,
okay,
of food. So I went and got my food anyway. And then her friends were on that school bus that you can sit inside and chat. So I think I got my food and I met in there. And maybe I met some of the friends, but it was weird, me just kind of sitting on the end, not really a part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure if they knew
who you were,
who I even was or anything. I'm just kind of like sitting on the end. Maybe she introduced me like just like, hey, I don't know if she used a label, but it was kind of like here's my friend this, and you may not be like really in the conversation because there's like a big group of people.
At this point, did you still feel like you were on a date?
At this point, no, because like there's I was not
gonna say, I feel like when it's friends this early, it's not a date anymore.
It's so awkward.
Yeah, and you're not even in that situation. You can't even get to know someone early or spend the time together early to even know if you like this person or not.
Right. Like I feel like you want to meet friends like eventually, but when you haven't even like had any foundation with each other, it's not really like
it's very strange
meet my friends type of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm eating my food, not really talking to many people. She's kind of maybe saying a thing or two to me, / talking to her friends. And I'm feeling at this point, I'm like, I just want to eat and get out of here. Like,
Yeah.
You know, like what is
Yeah.
what is gonna happen here? Like, I'm kind of wasting my time here. And then I'm not sure how long this actually like took to happen or in the meal, but she had said that there's nothing there for her, except there was one thing for her that she had brought in her bag. Yes.
Well,
so, and this wasn't like this wasn't announced or anything, but maybe I'm sitting across from her and she's kind of in that conversation, and I see her pull a big red bell pepper out of her bag.
From her bag?
Yeah, her purse or her bag. A Trader Joe's one. I remember seeing the little sticker on it. Yeah.
And then what does she do with the pepper?
She took a big bite out of it like it was an apple.
Would it be less weird if it was an apple? I kind of feel like it would be.
It would be less weird. I mean, I carry fruit with me in my bag as a snack, but never a bell pepper.
It could have been a number of things and not been so strange.
Obviously, you had an interesting reaction to it. What about her friend? Did they notice?
I don't think they noticed, or maybe they just know she is that way. Like, no one else was calling her out on it or talking about it or anything. And I wasn't going to at this point. I was kind of already over it.
Interesting.
Were you attracted to her at any point during this quote unquote date?
I think it was the kind of thing where you're not it's not that you're not attracted to this person, or you're not saying I'm physically just not attracted to them,
Mm-hmm.
but the conversation or the chemistry is so apparent that that's not there.
Right.
Like, someone could be really hot, but if you can't even talk to them, it's kind of like what's the point, you know?
So did she like just come off like it? Like, from what you're describing, it just sounds like she was like so aloof the whole time, like kind of in her own world. That's like, I'm trying to vision this date, and I'm like picturing you guys like trying to make conversation, her like kind of sitting at the bar, like barely drinking, not into that, then going to the food, not into that. Like, it just felt like she was like in her own world, not interested in anything. Is that like how you felt, or how did you feel?
Yeah, and she clearly wasn't in it for the free drink either. If she didn't,
or the food. Yeah.
So it was like, I don't know, like, am I helping you pass time here, kill an hour or something?
Right.
Like, I don't know what it is.
Am I just your layover to the next thing? I'm just trying to put myself in her shoes. I feel like those days when I'm in a bad mood where nothing has gone right for me, like, then nothing tastes good. I want nothing. Nothing can make me happy. But then I wouldn't go on a date if I were in that kind of mindset.
Or like, why bring you to the next destination if you were a layover? Like, if you were like, I mean,
why not just get rid of you?
Right.
That's what I was confused about. You know, sometimes someone will say like, "Hey, like, I have something to do now. It was nice meeting you," and just kind of make an exit, and everyone knows what's going on. You know? Yeah.
And there's like, it's almost I don't know. I guess for you, it's almost better because then you just wasted another hour. I mean, I guess you got some food, so that's positive. But you could have gone anywhere. You'd have to go there.
There's so many quirky things about this date. One is the fact that you became this tag along.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure her friends did not know that she was on a date with you, because I've brought dates to meet my friends, but I made it very clear to my friends. So the whole time they're all about him because they want to get to know him. Right? Your friends would want to know who are you.
Yeah, but have you ever brought someone to meet your friends on the first date?
I have. I'm guilty. I have done it.
Why'd you do it? I'm so curious.
I did it because I wanted to. So it was a very complicated first date. We had a drink first, and I had dinner with my friends because I wanted to have like that cutoff period. I didn't want to linger. But I liked him so much, I want to see him later. So he's like, I'm down to meet up later if you want. And I'm like, well, I'll be out with my friends. So he came and met up with us.
Okay.
So that's why. But I made it very clear to my friends, I'm on a first date with this guy. I'm really into him. So when he came in, they just swarmed him. They were just like, what's your name? What do you do? What are your intentions? You know, they want to know everything about him. They definitely did not ignore him. So everyone approaches dating a little bit differently. Yeah. It sounds like you were along for the ride and she was just going on with her day.
Well, we had a friend that used to bring first dates around all the time. Like, it was girls' night. Yeah. And she would bring her random Tinder date out all the time. Oh my gosh. I feel like at the beginning I was like trying to make small talk. And then because it became so many of them, and I'm like, I'm never going to see these people again. Yeah. I wonder, because
that's true.
Like, I wonder if this isn't the first time this has happened with her friends. Like, she's brought dates, and they're just like, oh, not again. I'm not going to even, like, exert any energy because I'm probably never going to see this dude again. Because I feel like even if they thought you guys were just friends, you would think they would have, like, tried to engage you a little.
Or something.
Who are you? What's your name? Like,
right, right. I guess we can have so many theories about what was going on through her mind, but we don't know her, so have no idea. But I think the point of this is, how did this make you feel?
Yeah.
Like, how did you feel walking away from this date?
You know, I can't say that she was being rude at all. It was just like disinterest.
Yeah, it's not rude because she invited you along. She wasn't like, see you later. Like, she was actually inviting and welcoming in a weird way, but like not at the same time.
I feel like disinterest it's almost like a worse word than rude. I almost rather someone have like a repulsive reaction to me as opposed to just disinterest.
Right. Because then you feel like you're like, why am I even here?
Why am I here? I'm just filling space for you.
Yeah. She wasn't talking very much, so I know that she wasn't asking very many questions about me. It's usually like you want to have an even distribution of like...
So you felt like you were the only one asking questions?
Yeah, that's why it was like very... But again, she like invited me, so I kind of was like, okay, let me go.
Yeah.
Let me go and let me try.
And at the beginning, sometimes people need a little time to warm up.
Totally.
So I could see why you would go.
Were you trying to eat your food as fast as possible, thinking of your exit strategy, or were you still like feeling it out?
I think I was still feeling it out prior to the bell pepper a little bit. Like, I wasn't having a great time.
The bell pepper was the end. You're like, peace out.
I'm allergic. Can't do this.
And it's not even like, I guess I don't shy away from if there's something quirky about someone.
Yeah.
Like, that's completely fine.
Yeah.
Like, my girlfriend now has like things that might be weird about her, but they're, I don't know, they're endearing, or they're just, they're just her. So it's not like I needed someone to be a certain way, but it was just kind of like the final.
Well, that's what I'm thinking with this whole story is like, I feel like if you guys were having a really great time and getting along and all the stuff, and then she was just like, oh, there's no food for me, here's a bell pepper, it would not have had the same reaction.
Right. Yeah.
I think, and we've said this before, like, you can do the same exact thing, but like if someone likes you or there's like a connection, it's totally
you find it so cute and endearing.
Right. And then if you don't, it's like, creepy, what the heck is going on?
Creepy and weird.
Exactly.
And then
it's such a double standard.
Can we just visit the bell pepper for a sec? I know this sounds so petty, but like, what goes on through your head when you put a bell pepper in your bag to go on a date? Okay, are you like, this is for a snack later, or did you go grocery shopping and it was the first thing that you grabbed out of your bag?
I feel like she was like on like a back-to-back or something. Like, I feel like your date wasn't the only thing planned for her that day.
Oh.
I don't know. That's just my hunch.
Just like
I don't
fuel.
know. Maybe. It just feels like she had a lot of stuff going on. So, like, I don't know if she was like necessarily planning for a date or just planning for her day. Like,
but she was hungry, right? Didn't she say that at one point?
She did go look for food.
She went to look for food and didn't find anything. So then the backup plan was to pull out the bell pepper. Have you guys ever tried to eat a bell pepper like an apple? I have tried once.
Well, that's
as
the
a
part.
Dare.
That's
as
the
a dare.
part that's crazy about it. Because did she like cut it up or no?
No, it was like an apple.
Because there's all those seeds inside, and what do you do with the seeds? And does she wash the bell pepper? I have so many questions.
I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, like I feel like just if they were cut up pieces of the bell pepper, it would have been like eating like celery or carrots.
Right, yeah.
But like chomping into it is like very aggressive. Like it's just like random that like you would do that.
So random. But maybe she's onto something. Maybe this is like the new health fad that she discovered, and in 10 years we're all going to get on it. The bell pepper fad. But okay.
Put that aside.
It's a fun story because at the end of this, you still remember her.
Yeah.
Years later.
Why do you think?
Yeah. Why was this date so memorable?
I think clearly because that hasn't happened to me before. But I think it's kind of it's memorable because it's the not knowing where you stand. When you're on a date and you're kind of trying to suss it out and figure out what's going on.
Like you just got no signals.
Yeah.
That I can relate to. I've been on dates where you're at a bar and you're just like, whatever's happening in this environment's not working for us. So let's do a change of scenery. And maybe I have different feelings. So I've taken a guy to like, let's say, a dancey kind of place where there's a dance floor and maybe there's chemistry there. So I can see how you could change up the environment. We've seen it with some of the previous dates we've interviewed. You change up the environment and it's a totally different feel. But it sounds like that's not what she was doing. It sounds like she already had this planned.
Yeah, she knew. I think she knew that this was going on this day. It's at some point that her friends were there.
Or maybe she was trying to see, like, let it continue with you and also be with her friends. Maybe it was like a multitasking type of thing. I don't know. Maybe she was like trying to suss it out a little more as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So how did this date end?
Yeah.
It kind of just ended with me kind of slipping off and saying like, "Oh, like it's nice meeting you, but like I'm gonna head home."
How did that happen? Were they all her friends talking, and you were just like, "I gotta go," or like, what was the scene?
I probably picked out like a moment where she wasn't talking to someone. She wasn't sitting like that far away from me, but like the friends were kind of on one end and I was at the other end. If that makes sense.
So she was in the middle of you two, or
she was kind of on the end of her friends, like where I don't think I was even really sitting next to.
You're like at a different table.
Yeah, and there might have been like random people mixed in there. It's like one of those big tables where there could be different people sitting at them.
That's also actually so much more awkward because like that's like not even like you're sitting at a table like. No. Like forced to get to know these people. You're away
like the edge
from it
of
all.
The edge.
Yeah.
You're like one butt cheek on, one butt cheek off.
To like yell to them to even try to make conversation.
Right. Okay, so then you saw an opportunity to say goodbye.
And I just left. And, there wasn't
and that was it?
Yeah, she stayed there.
Okay.
Did she like get up to like hug you or anything?
I don't remember that. It was kind of like, in my mind anyway. It was kind of just like I got up and left.
So did you ever talk to her again?
I don't think so. I hope not. Like if I tried again or something, like I hope I would have gotten.
Did she ever reach out again?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
What'd you tell your friends? Like I'm just so curious. Like what your react? Like I feel like if this happened to me, I would have been texting you like the second I left this place about this.
Like what the fuck?
I don't think I did it right away. But actually, another part of it that I do remember and why this was just such a didn't want to give it a chance was the food thing, where I have been on a couple dates, and maybe it's not fair because someone could be nervous eating for the first time in front of someone. Some people have that. But the not being able to eat anything is just like I don't know. I want to be able, if I'm dating someone, I want to be able to go to a restaurant and not have to be like, you're super picky. Like I'm fine if someone is a vegan or vegetarian or this thing, but at least they're trying, Yeah.
I saw the best quote. I think it was on Instagram. It was just like, I'm on this new paleo keto diet and I've already lost 15 friends.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, a lot of us are self-conscious about what we eat, what we drink, what we say, all that on dates. Yeah. You feel like you're under a microscope.
It totally is awkward though, because like I did the paleo diet for a while and I remember like going on some dates and like for whatever reason, even though like I wasn't like insecure about it, like I felt like that person, right? The like one that has all these like restrictions that I've like imposed on myself, and I didn't want to be like the picky eater, so I like didn't want to like say it to them.
Yeah.
But then like the last person I dated, I was like super comfortable and said it from like day one. So it was like, I think it really depends like on how you're vibing with someone, but I get it. Yeah.
Whatever your diet is, you just have to own it. If you're eating a pepper and you know it's weird, you should just own it and be like, yes, everyone, I'm eating a pepper. Like, I do this all the time, as opposed to kind of like, oh, I can't find anything else to eat. I'm going to eat this pepper.
Or taking it as a time to explain maybe why or something.
Right, yeah, because it's weird. You got to know. So have you had any other quirky experiences on dates that are kind of on a similar level? Or do you think this was like the quirkiest?
It's definitely my go-to story. People probably have like more outrageous stories or characters that would just completely blow that away. I mean, aside from like I told you like a couple of like the food things or someone being very aggressive on the first date in terms of questions
Mhm.
of like, I've had the question asked, so like, what are you going to be doing in the next 5 years of your life? Like, what
Wow.
do you have
On the
planned
first
out?
date. Okay.
On the first date, and I'm like, I'm just trying to have fun. Right now.
Are you on
like,
a job interview?
Yeah.
Just trying to eat this pepper here, okay?
But one thing happened recently that is kind of a follow-up to this. A couple of months ago, I was on BART and I saw someone eating something unusual. And it wasn't a bell pepper. It was a cucumber, like a raw cucumber. And I don't know whether that's better or worse, but it made me question whether like maybe it wasn't that weird and people do these things. Like, I just don't know the people that do this. Yeah.
I mean, okay, like cucumber. I've eaten cucumber, but not in public.
Like
though.
a whole cucumber?
I've eaten a cucumber because that's actually how, when I lived in Beijing, that's how we cooled down the summer.
Oh,
You just take a
interesting.
whole cucumber and just eat it because it really cools down your system. But I would never eat it on the BART, for example. That is dirty as fuck. But also just in public because it's so phallic. I do think the bell pepper, why it's weird in my mind is the seeds inside. I just don't think it's very conducive to eating like an apple. That's
right.
Yeah. So I don't think you're crazy, but I would love to hear someone else's opinion.
Well, there was this, not that this is obviously true opinion, but it reminds me of this like Sex and the City episode where she's like in jury duty and there's this guy that like every day opens his briefcase and there's some like ridiculous fruit in there, like a mango or like a pineapple, like things that like you just like wouldn't snack on. And it's like, what the heck?
What the heck? So I guess this brings us to a few discussion points. One is, what is the proper way to handle quirky dates? Let's say you have no chemistry.
Yeah.
But out of respect for someone, you should still stay and like get to know them. How should you handle these quirky dates?
It's time to take a quick break so we can tell you about our current sponsor, ModCloth. At ModCloth, there's no such thing as an ordinary outfit. ModCloth's signature styles include hand-drawn prints, standout silhouette, and an inclusive size range that celebrates all women with sizes from 00 to size 28. I actually just purchased this amazing jumpsuit called the Unbridled Enthusiasm Wide Leg Jumpsuit in 2 different colors. It's chic enough for the office, but also fun enough for happy hour. And can I just say, I love anything with pockets. This is the time to stock up on dresses and swimsuits for the season ahead. Got a question about fit? Their team of mod stylists can hook you up with complimentary sizing and styling help. Special for Dateable listeners, get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. Go to modcloth.com, that's spelled MODCLOTH, and enter the code DATEABLE at checkout. This offer is valid for one-time use only and expires June 9th. So get on it now. Again, go to modcloth.com and enter the code DATEABLE at checkout to get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more. And now, back to the show.
How should you handle these quirky dates?
Like, I guess what part are we going to call it specifically on this date? Because I feel like there's multiple things on this date. You didn't know like anything about her, right? Because she was like, or you were asking her questions, but she knew nothing about you because she wasn't asking you any questions.
Right.
So at that point, I feel like it's pretty clear that it's not like oh my God, I want you to meet my friends because I'm so into you, right? So there's that piece. Then there's the bell pepper piece. Like, I just like, where do we even start?
I would start with, I've been on dates where I feel like I'm not being asked any questions and it's very one-sided. And at that point, I just decide I'm going to extract as much information out of this person as possible. I'm going to be just super curious, and this is going to make for a good story later.
That's true.
So I think if I were on this date with this girl, and maybe the friends thing is not so interesting, but when she took out that bell pepper, I would have questioned her. I would have been like, whoa, where did you get that? Why are you, what were you thinking when you put it in your bag? Like, do you normally do this on dates? I would just, like, what do you have to lose, right? You got to make the best out of it. And I have this theory, or this philosophy really, that you can learn something from everyone. So maybe she could have taught you something about bell peppers that we don't know about. Maybe it's a fountain of youth. Maybe she's like 85 years old and she looks 28. Who knows? But you can learn so much, especially from negative people, because one, you learn that you don't want to be that.
Right.
And two, also it's like, what's the root of this? Why? What caused this?
I actually think like with my date, I was just so curious because I was like, I've never encountered someone that within 2 minutes of a date is telling me how much he does not like my entire gender. Like, that's crazy. So I was like, I need to like learn more. Why is this guy like this? But yeah.
What if you had to do this date again, Kiran? What would you have done differently?
You know, I think I would have tried to. I didn't want to talk to like the friends that much, just because maybe you're uncomfortable, you don't know them, and talk to them. But I think I would have made more of an effort to like get in their conversation, at least to the point where they start asking you like,
who are you?
Who you are?
Where did you come from?
And it would just be really funny to be like, oh, how do you know her? And I'm like, we're on a date right now. Just so you know,
realize that you guys knew each other.
Yeah. They're like, who's that creeper that's just sitting next to her, watching her eat? Well, maybe she had cute friends too.
That's true.
That's true.
Right? Tap into their network.
I guess that's the benefit about being introduced to friends when it's clearly no chemistry, is maybe you could actually meet one of their friends that you would hit it off with more.
Yeah,
that's true. Definitely could have made more of an effort to make something of it, like whether it was more of a story like you're saying, like maybe you learn something, maybe you call them out and then you have that exchange to it.
Right. When we go on dates, we're writing a chapter in this movie, right? And you kind of think about like, how do I want to write the ending of this date? How do I want to fade out? What is the last scene? And you could write your own story here.
I think though there's the other side of it is just cutting your losses too. Just like I get like the let's see what happens. I think if there's like some level of intrigue or interest, or whether that's like because you want to pursue that person or just because you're just interested in what they're talking about and rambling about. I think if you don't have either of those two and you're just like, why am I here right now? I think there's something about cutting your losses, because I've certainly been there before when I'm like, okay, I just got through a drink with someone and they seem like a great person, but this has been like a painful conversation.
Right, yeah.
And like I've had instances I'm like, it's not worth my time to stay here for another hour.
But I think that's when you make the distinction. Am I amused by this person or annoyed by this person? If I'm annoyed by this person, get out.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I'm not even annoyed, but just like you're like disinterested maybe.
All right. So maybe she was disinterested. I mean, I don't know.
And that's fair. Maybe she didn't want to be rude. So that's why she was kind of giving those signals and being like, he's going to leave at some point. Like, and then I don't have to, say.
Maybe.
Would you rather go on a quirky date or a basic date?
Oh, that's a good one.
Just basic date talk.
Interview style. What do you do? Where are you from?
Good enough, but basic.
The quirky date for sure.
Yeah, quirky date for sure. At least you have a story. Yeah.
It's memorable. You can
learn something.
Yeah. It's a great story. You can tell it on podcast.
I feel like the painful date is like when it's just so generic and like no chemistry and just like interview-esque style and just like date talk like we've talked about. And it's I would much rather have something crazy happen, even if I knew I'd never see the person again.
The flip side of this is that we've interviewed some people who only go on dates to have good stories. So they actually don't go on dates for potential of dating someone. They just want a good story. So where do you draw the line of bringing fun and spontaneity to a date versus trying to see if there's potential?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think if like all of your dates are going in this like quirky, weird vibe, then there's a question that you need to like see if one, am I like picking the right people in the first place? Like, what am I bringing that might be attracting this? Like all of that. I think there's a big difference between having these happen once in a while versus like every date you go on.
Right. Because I asked this because I don't know her, but I could see her seeing this as the bell pepper test on dates.
Oh, I could totally see something like that.
Some they bring something consistently on a date just to see how her date reacts to it. So maybe she does the bell pepper test.
Well, I think that like to your question, when do you draw the line? I think at that point it's, what are you looking for, right? Like, are you looking for just like fun nights and good stories? Or are you looking for a relationship?
Right.
Because if you're looking for a relationship, you don't need to like test people and do like these random things to see how they react.
So this is a good way to bring up something that Julie and I hear all the time. We get emails from you guys that say, I really need to write a book about my dating life. That's when you know you're probably not in dating for like dating potential.
Right.
You're actually in dating for the stories.
Yep.
Because if you are constantly going on these dates and you have to write in a journal because you want all your friends to hear about it and you think it's so funny, you're obviously attracting that energy.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, is like, why are you actually going on dates? Like, are you going to form a connection with another human being?
Yeah.
Or are you going to report back to your friends that
are
you did something?
Do you have a dating blog?
Right.
Then, okay, that's a whole other story. Yeah.
So from all this, what are takeaways of this bell pepper date?
I'm going to try a bell pepper tonight for dinner.
Only if you go on a date.
Only if I go on a date.
Do you think, okay, before we go into takeaways, do you think if it was like at a formal, like sit down restaurant with wait service, would that be weirder or equal to this?
Oh,
like,
weirder. I think
Yeah.
that's way weirder. What would you say to the waiter? Oh, my date is fine with her bell pepper and water.
So
Thank
at
you.
least, I will point out, at least she picked the right environment to throw out the bell pepper.
Well, with Kiran, who knows with other people?
It's true. It's true. That's the ultimate bell pepper test.
Ultimate. I think my biggest takeaway is for anybody who walks away from a date thinking it was a really great date is when they feel like they were seen and heard.
Yeah.
And you just have to make your date feel like you're very present. They're the only person there. You're there to get to know them. But if you're feeling like you're along for the ride, you're a tag along, you're kind of a second thought or a layover, then that's never going to be a good date. Why even go on these dates if that's not the mindset you're in? So all we're trying to do is be present on dates and make, even if there's no chemistry, make that person feel like you're there on purpose to get to know them.
Right. And we don't know what her intention was, but I think like another one is like, think about the other person that's there too. Like, yeah, maybe you wanted to be not rude and extend the invite to have them come join you and your friends, but is that actually really beneficial to them if you're not going to like include them in conversation? Like, would it actually been nicer in theory for them to go use that hour plus whatever to do something else with their lives? Like, I think it's like just to bring someone along or just to have like show that you're friends, that you're on dates or whatever your like selfish reason is, like think about, is that actually serving you like really getting to know this person?
Yeah. What are your takeaways, Kiran?
I agree with the attention part, focusing on the person, and when I was going on these dates, like I always made a point to be present. Like I wasn't on my phone at all. Like I would just like ignore it for a couple hours or whatever to just to get to know that person, because that's not a good feeling. And even if I wasn't feeling like there was potential to someone, like maybe I could still get along with them in some other way.
Yes.
I can't remember if I've ever had someone who was a friend after the fact and like really maintained like a friendship, but I'm sure some people have had that experience.
Or at least for the evening. I think there's like an element of respect. I think if you're just like, and again, I don't know what her vibe was sitting there, but if you're like answering in one word answers and like not asking any questions and like fiddling with your drink, not enjoying it. Like, I mean, not saying she had to drink, but like, you know, like just feeling like this, like feeling of disinterest is just going to bring the mood down in general. Yeah. So it's like, how do you like stay present with someone, even if you know there's nothing there?
Here's something I think we should all be doing is to do a check-in in the middle of the date. Hey, are you having a good time? Do you want to continue this date?
Right.
So when she asked you to go to meet up with her friends, maybe that would have been a good time to check in and say, are you having a good time? Do you feel like we should continue this date? If you want to meet up with your friends, maybe you should just do that and then we can continue this another time. I think we always try to guess what the other person's thinking, but it makes sense. Just do a check-in. How are you feeling?
It's a great point.
That is a good idea. And I can see why I wouldn't want to do that either, but it is like a very considerate thing to do. And I think the other thing too that just stands out from your, like, it's just something I've maybe learned over the years is when you're dating, I think when you treat it as more of a, not like just seeing another person, but like some people go on tons of dates. That's not like always a good thing. Like when people are like, oh, well, like if you meet enough people, like no, because you start like not taking it seriously at all. Right. Or not like having any like real hope or intention to it.
Well, I think that's a good takeaway. There's someone else at the end of that date. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like you don't need like this like collateral, right? Like it's not fair to that other person. If you, for example, was trying to make a connection, like that's not a fair like feeling to someone. I will say the last takeaway, I'm going to play devil's advocate to everything we just said. But like we kind of talked about this on our episode Dating on a Whim that we did a long time ago, where it was a blind date with UA and this guy Andrew, and he made a point that the date with you guys didn't actually get off to the best start. That he thought you felt like shut down in it. And then he started to ask why and like tried to get real with it, and it turned it around. Like you guys broke through the date talk. You got to like form more of an emotional connection on the date. So I guess the flip side of all this is if you're in one of these situations where people aren't responding, asking you a lot of questions, you could just cut your loss and say like this wasn't the right match, or you could try to turn the situation around.
Yeah. Like why? What's going through your head? What was your day like today?
Right.
What's leading up to how you're feeling right now? But that's only if you have the energy to do so, right? Maybe some days you're just like, fuck it. I don't have the energy to.
Right. And I think every situation's different. I think though that's just the flip side of it is like you can always change the conversation if you really want to.
Absolutely. But at the same time, back to that episode, there has to be a baseline connection.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel the baseline connection, maybe it is a good time. Just cut your losses.
Yep. Or there has to be some level of reciprocity.
Yeah.
Like if someone's like literally not giving you anything back, if you're trying to turn it around, like you can only do so much as one person.
Question of the day?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. This one comes from Lauren. She says, I'm always hesitant to eat on first dates because I feel like I'm being judged for what I order. I feel like if I order something hearty, I seem like I'm in this for a free meal. And if I order a salad, I may be perceived as fake or superficial. Am I reading too much into this? How can I get over this perception I have? Well, dating and food. Interesting relationship, isn't it?
It is.
What do you have to say about this question?
I think that maybe people are worrying a little bit too much about it, and the other person is not thinking or reading into it that deeply. It's strange if you don't order anything, like as we just talked about, but I don't know. I would never want to put the pressure on someone to, it's their body, like ultimately what they put into it. So they should feel comfortable ordering what they want. So I don't think I would make an assumption that like because they ordered a salad that they're this type of person. Maybe that's just what they felt like that day. Or that, if they ordered something really expensive. I mean, within reason, if you're ordering something that you're not at a fancy place to begin with, and then you're ordering like something really extra, like that doesn't make sense.
With the foie gras.
I think, I don't know, like you order like within the same realm of
That's a good
other.
point. I have a few thoughts on this. I think women think about this a lot more than men do.
Yeah.
I think because it comes down to like how women's like perception of body image, like I feel like yes, men have body image stuff too. I don't want to say that they don't, but society always tells women that there's a lot that they need to like portray about their body to attract men, right? So I think that there is this like notion of like, oh, I need to order the salad so I like come off as like
health conscious,
and like I think to your point, I don't think men think about it nearly as much as women do, and I think if anything, when the woman orders the salad or something that she doesn't really want or nothing at all, it almost draws like more attention to it.
Yeah.
But I think to your point that you just made, Kiran, it's like, how do you meet them like where they are too? Like if you're on a date and you guys are sharing apps, like don't order 5 entrees. Like, there's like a line for many reasons because then it stands out in the other way. Also, it's like thinking about like, I don't know, like what you're doing after the date too. Like if you are like trying to like get some sexy time on, like maybe you don't want to eat something like super like
garlicky,
or like just like
of
filling or just like tons of meat, like whatever, like lethargic, all of that. So I think sometimes like maybe thinking about just like good date food in general, but also staying true to like yourself and not totally depriving because you have an image you're trying to put out.
Right. I think ultimately you should eat whatever you want to eat. And on that whim one date, I ordered meatballs, and Andrew thought it was very peculiar that I ordered meatballs because I seemed like a health-conscious person. He wasn't judging me for it. He was more like, yeah, this girl can get down.
Yeah.
But for me, I love meat. So I was going to eat meatballs regardless of how I was being perceived. So I think it's just, you should order whatever your body's telling you to order and get it. You should listen to your body.
But I think that's like the whole like men and women perception thing is like, if he's on the date with you in the first place, like he probably finds you attractive, especially if you've been on like a couple of dates, right?
Yeah.
And I think like you mentioned earlier, Kiran, like you want someone ultimately, if you're in a relationship, like a big part of it is like eating together, sharing food. Like there's an intimacy that comes with that. And a lot of people, being a foodie is like a hobby in a way, right? And it doesn't mean that you're unhealthy. It's just like a part of society and culture. So like I think a guy might actually be turned on, like the meatball situation. They're like, wow, like if I was to be with this girl, we could actually enjoy food together.
Yeah. But isn't it also like food is part of dating? So you're also trying to find your foodie match as well. So I've been on dates with guys who are super picky, ask where the chicken came from. Like, is this organic and blah, 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 you know, gluten-free, all that shit. And I judge them not because I'm judging them for their choices, but I judge them because we'll never be a good match. That's just not how I eat.
Yeah.
Right? So you should, again, eat what you want to eat. And the person may, if they don't match your style, then you're probably not a good match.
It's tough though, because like I was on a very like specific diet for a bit, and I could feel myself being annoying even when I was with like friends. Like it wasn't even like a dating thing. So like there was that notion. I'm like, I don't want that perception of like this person that's like all these sauces on the side and like know this, know that. Like I think there's like an element that correlates to being difficult with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's like maybe if you can see something on the menu that doesn't require that you make like 100 substitutions, but it still fits in with your diet, you could go for something like that. So it's like, how do you make choices that way opposed to like nitpicking every last piece?
Don't you think also for dates, if you know you have specific dietary needs, if you know where you're going, you should look at the menu ahead of time and or tell your date that this is how you're eating and just warn them.
Right. I think that's the ultimate is like, if it's all how you say it. Like if you say it like it's no big deal and like you eat out all the time and like can maintain your lifestyle with this, then it's less of a big deal than if you're like letting them draw conclusions because you're like ripping apart the menu. Right.
So Kiran, have you been on dates where you judge a girl for what she ordered?
Besides the bell pepper.
You know, just that those instances of like really not eating anything at all. And it's not even like, oh, I have anything special about what I eat, but I want to make sure that they're, in my mind, like that they're healthy. Like, that they have healthy eating habits. I actually don't do a lot of judging as to like what the person will eat. And to me, it's kind of strange that to be worried about like, oh, if I order this person's going to think I'm like this. You're kind of sitting right in front of them anyway. So you kind of know somewhat something about their lifestyle, like, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like if I saw someone that was super in shape and they like ordered this like really fatty thing, I'd be like, cool, maybe they exercise a lot. Maybe they have good metabolism, like another number of things. So it wouldn't be like a turn off or anything, you know?
Right.
I think you're right, Julie. I think women just think about this way more than men.
Yeah.
I think men are just like, I'm hungry, let's eat.
Oh, 100%. And I think actually like, like crazy situations aside, if you just order something that's like matching what they do to some degree, they're not going to think anything of it. And it's usually these situations where it's like depriving yourself that people start to question it more.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Enough of this food talk.
I'm hungry now.
I'm getting hungry. But I do want to hear from you, if you've been on a date with a bell pepper girl. And two, if you have your own opinions about food, quirky dates, any of the topics that we talked about.
Meeting friends. I like this topic. When's the right time? There's probably somewhere in the middle of the first date and never. So what is that?
Exactly. What do you think is the right way to approach this? And of course, just any dating stories you may have. We love dating stories. These are always great. We're still booking guests for season 8 and we love to hear from you.
If you're on one of these quirky dates and you're like, this has no hope, but you're going to stick it out for the story, at least come and tell us.
Yeah, at least do it for us. Do it for Dateable. Hashtag do it for Dateable. Okay, let's wrap this up.
Stay dateable.
Your action item for this week is to control the narrative of your dates. The truth is, we're all so different, and sometimes those differences come off as quirky or weird. Instead of playing into the narrative of, I'm on a date with someone who just did XYZ and they're so weird, you can easily change the narrative to, I'm on a date with someone who just did something I've never seen before. How fun and interesting is this? When we take control of how we steer our dates, that's when dating becomes fun. Want to continue the conversation? First, tag us in any post with hashtag StayDateable. Then head on over to our website, dateablepodcast.com. There you'll find all the episodes, as well as articles, videos, and our coaching services with vetted industry experts. You can also find our premium Why series, where we dissect, analyze, and offer solutions to some of the most common dating conundrums. To connect with us, find Dateable Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also downloadable on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast platforms. Your feedback is valuable to us, so don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes. And most importantly, remember to stay dateable.